one of the greatest fighters who ever lived. I have friends who tell me in his prime, he's the best ever. I'm like, come on, Sugar Ray Robinson. Like, all I know is when George Foreman was in his prime, that dude was the best I've ever seen. And here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe the most intimidating champion in the history of boxing. Sonny Liston, Mike Tyson, or George Foreman, who joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. Big George, thanks for joining the show.
I'm happy to be with you, my friend, as always.
So this is the 46th anniversary of the Rumble in the Jungle. And my producer, Raj, tells me George has been saying he was robbed. Is that true?
Whenever you lose, you better say you were robbed. Otherwise, you won't even want to come back. That was a tough fight at a tough time and hard to swallow.
But someone said that you've been saying you slipped because the ring was wet, but it looked like Ali hit you right on the bumper with the right hand. What happened?
Yeah, someone had put some ice and banana and butter, everything on that ring tonight, because as I tried to break my fall, I kept slipping.
George, you lost that night to the greatest champion, the greatest athlete in the history of the world, basically, is basically by acclamation, right? On one of his greatest nights, under difficult circumstances, in the heat with loose ropes, all that stuff is true. And you lost one other fight to Jimmy Young, also under very difficult circumstances, retire from boxing, come back after a 10-year retirement, win the heavyweight championship of the world, and then go on to make hundreds of millions selling a grill. And yet this still seems like the biggest moment of your career, even though it was a loss. Was it?
I think it's one of the biggest moments I've had in boxing, period. I was so far and for so long away from home. I wanted that fight to get over, but I thought it would be the easiest fight I had. You're a champion, and you're looking for easy, sweet pickings. I didn't expect a tough fight out of Muhammad Ali. So it was embarrassing, dehumanizing. The heat, all of that was just an excuse. I lost. It hurt. It hurt. But then I've gone on to do things that make me wish I was back in that same 25-year-old guy in Africa enjoying that place. I don't ever want to think about it as a bad thing. It was wonderful to be, to be young at heart. I like to sing that Frank Sinatra song whenever I see that fight.
George, you won an Olympic gold medal. You were 40-0 with 37 knockouts. Muhammad Ali had lost his first fight to Joe Frazier, the fight of the century, in a great fight. And he avenged the loss in a tough decision. And he'd lost to Ken Norton, who'd broken his jaw and barely beaten Norton in a rematch that could have gone either way. You fought Norton and Frazier and knocked them out in 2 rounds apiece. So, of course, going into that fight as a 5-1 favorite, you must have thought, as you said, easy pickings. At what moment did you realize, wait a minute, this old man ain't going away?
It was about the 4th round. I hit this guy, and I hit him pretty good, and I thought I had him weakened. And he started leaning on me. I said, he's ready to fall. And then he whispered in my ear, "That all you got, George?" I knew then this was not the fight I didn't anticipate it at all. I had no expectation to hear him say that to me at that time of the fight. It got pretty scary then.
George, when people talk about the all-time greats, look, in your first career as champion, you were, except for the Ali fight, you looked like the most unbeatable fighter ever. But you did get counted out. In your second, in the Rumble in the Jungle, in your second career, you were bigger and older and fatter and slower, could still punch, but you had a kind of resolve in your second career. You went 12 rounds with a prime Holyfield. You knocked out Moorer for the championship, even big, young, strong heavyweights. They finally gave Shannon Briggs a decision over you, which I thought you won, but he didn't knock you out. It was a slugfest. I sometimes think if George Foreman could combine his first career when he's 25 and invincible with his second career when he had that internal intestinal fortitude, Maybe you are talking about the greatest fighter ever. Do you sometimes think that if only I was the kind of man I became in my second career when I was still young, what I could have done?
That's a lot of thinking. I try never to think that hard about anything. But Dick Sutler had this plan. When I came back to boxing, he said, look, all of these good boxers are around. They got the left jab, the footwork, they move, spin, turn. He said, you get out there and jump on them. Don't even reach back. Don't even think about form or defining yourself as a boxer. Just knock them out. They were not prepared for it. So I went through the ranks knocking everybody out because they wanted to box. All you had to do was fight them. So coming back the second time, it was a different crop of fighters. They all were pretty good, and I couldn't take the same style again. So I had to change with the times. I needed both styles in different times, so to speak.
Yeah, but what a chin, what heart you displayed in your second career against all odds, going the distance with Holyfield in a great fight. George, I always love talking to you. And any last words before we say goodbye?
Well, always remember, everybody should remember that, especially with sports guys, one victory does not define anyone, and a defeat does not mean that's the end of it. That's the end of someone. Keep looking, keep pulling, and keep praying for the other guy.
The great George Foreman, ladies and gentlemen, who's come back to win the heavyweight title 20 years after he lost it, is, to my mind, the most significant single accomplishment I've ever witnessed in sports. One of the greatest fighters of all time, George Foreman. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.